Hello you demons and happy Friday. Now I hope you all had a great week because today we are going to be unpacking the uncanny horrors of automatons. And no, I'm not talking about the Helldiver ones. I'm going to be talking about the cool ones that we made, such as the ones that sing, play music, draw, shovel blood. Now in order to get a better understanding of these unsettling inventions, we have to go back in time and review some of history's more tame and, not so creepy examples of automatons or robots. A lot of these earlier examples were simple in what action they executed.
I appear to have invented a knife-wielding tentacle.
However, were incredibly complex in their construction, so much so that mostly watchmakers were the ones constructing them. Oh yeah, don't worry, we're gonna have the footage for each of these automatons in action. Fair warning, they do get a little creepy though. I think we should start off with one that is just as interesting as the story behind it. We are going to be talking about the first one, known as the mechanical monk. Our story begins in 1565 with King Philip II of Spain. King Philip's son had suffered a traumatic brain injury, so much so that he didn't think he was going to make it. This led to Philip making a deal with God, saying that if he spared his son from death, that he would create a miracle of his own. King Philip II's son did end up surviving that brain injury, and now it was up to him to hold up his side of the bargain with God. And he did so by commissioning a clockmaker to do it for him. Clockmaker Juan Luterano was commissioned to create a mechanical automaton of a monk based off of Friar Diego de Alcalá. This monk would later gain sainthood, going by the new name of Saint Diego. And if you paid attention in your history class, you are correct, because San Diego would be in fact named after Saint Diego.
San Diego.
But history lessons aside, the automaton made by Terrano was very impressive. This 15-inch monk, yes, I know, kinda small, would walk around in a square pattern while also mimicking the motions and actions of a monk deep in prayer. They said that it would even go down to the detail of kissing the rosary with mechanical lips. But descriptions simply won't do it enough justice. Let's see this thing in action.
Yep, just as kind of creepy as I expected.
And don't worry, over the course of 450 years, this automaton is still on display and in action in the Washington, D.C. Smithsonian. But what about a more lovely, peaceful, and chill example, like something known as the Silver Swan? This little cutie was made in 1773 by James Cox of London. But don't let this thing's appearance fool you. This mechanical bound waterfowl was mechanically maniacal. This swan wouldn't just simply play a lovely tune, but it would also swan the hell out of its movements. While only having slightly jerky movements here and there, James Cox would also use glass rods to enhance the water's appearance, making this spectacular display of swanning even better. After catching fish and preening itself for 32 seconds, it would eventually return back to its original position. However, it didn't move in 2021. Why, you may ask? Because of frickin' COVID. Now, the swan would have been operated daily and twice on holidays, but because nobody was coming in, they weren't able to actually operate the swan, therefore causing its mechanics to seize up. The swan literally got COVID. However, the Bose Museum hosted a study week on the swan led by Matthew Reed, eventually getting its conservation and repair back to a functional state in March 2024. It is due to this miraculous restoration that the museum itself has now made the swan its logo. Real cute, right? Okay, now you had your cute swan story, now we get to the 3 horrific automatons made by Jacquet-Droz. These 3 completely normal and definitely not uncanny automatons were made by the Jacquet-Droz family around 1768 to 1774. They are completely functional and on display at the Museum of Art History in Switzerland. They are simply known as the musician, the writer, and the draftsman, and there is an untold 4th one we'll get to. The draftman uses a complex system of cams to not only draw cute little portraits of dogs, but to also blow away the graphite from the paper it's writing on. You can't convince me they didn't trap the soul of a poor Victorian child in this thing in order to make it operate. Now, the writer kind of steps up its ability from the draftsman by being able to have custom text input on its coding wheel. Now, the two notable features about this automaton is the fact that it shakes its hand to get the excess ink off of the pen, and it follows what it's writing along with its eyes. Now, our third one, the musician, is where things get a little crazy. It actually plays a miniature organ. Yep, that's correct. No recording, no music box, just straight up. Her unique abilities practically double from the other two examples. Not only is she able to follow her hands with her eyes, adjust herself while playing the organ, she can also breathe. This is just like the pinnacle of uncanniness for the time. But don't just let me tell you about it. I want you guys to see this thing in action. But if you were paying attention, we have a fourth one to talk about, known as the cave. But before we get on to this fourth one, if you guys wanted to subscribe and leave a like down there below, I'd be greatly appreciative. It just shows me that I'm doing a really good job and I've come a long way in my videos, so it would make me really happy. But enough about that, let's get on to the fourth one. Simply known as the cave, this fourth automaton was speculated to have existed and only a blueprint exists of it now. It essentially looks like a large amphitheater carved into the side of a mountain, but on the blueprints we see the pianist, the draftsman, and the writer. Now, with the presence of the other three automatons with the blueprints on the cave, I can only imagine that they were supposed to do their little automaton actions while being in this Shakespearean fairy tale setting.
Shine your shoes, wipe your face.
And of course, as humans are notorious for, we didn't stop when it looked this realistic. We kept going. We thought, hey, instead of this old human soul to power these automatons, what if we manufactured a soul to put into these things? This would lead us to this completely non-menacing looking robot, Mesmer. Made by Engineered Arts, its purpose is to mainly astonish crowds with full conversations based off of intense amounts of coded knowledge. Or like me, it astonishes you with its creepy expressions and lifelike appearance. But jokes aside, the company also states that a lot of its Mesmer bots can be decorated in terms of its outer shell to fit historical figures. But what if the Mesmer bot doesn't have the coded knowledge on a topic that it's going into? Well, no worries, because the company offers something known as Tin Man, which allows you to speak through the Mesmer bot itself. I realize I'm starting to sound like a sales rep for this, but I promise you it's mainly because it looks extremely creepy to me. But I don't think we should worry too much. I don't think the company would go any further with their... In 2021, the company introduced AMCA. Using an operating system known as Tritium, AMCA uses multiple AI features such as ChatGPT in order to create the most realistic, lifelike interaction you have ever had with an automaton, as seen here. Much like us, it's not only constantly learning from what it's fed, but also everything in its interactions, facial reactions, mannerism, voice quality, basically everything we would. I swear, one of these days we're gonna slip up once or twice, give a robot emotions, and then boom, I'm a blood puddle of entertainment. Okay, now I know that's a really big stretch, but I do think it's considerable and impressive how close we've gotten to just making robotic people. There's a lot of really cool futuristic looking stuff, especially made by Boston Dynamics, where it's just practically robots doing human things. Now, I think we are kind of far away from any sort of Terminator Skynet thing happening, but just in the course of like a decade, we've seen such exponential growth in the field, so I'm genuinely excited to see what the future holds. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you guys prefer the trapped soul of a Victorian child or the manufactured corporate soul of a modern robot automaton? But thank you guys so much for joining me on this very interesting subject, and if you guys have any ideas for any future videos that you would like me to research, please leave them down there in the comments. I've noticed that I'm getting a lot more views on these videos, so there's so many ideas that I just can't wait to hear from you guys if you're so kind as to share. I'm incredibly appreciative of each and every one of you, and I'm so happy to see that the channel is just progressively growing and there's more hundreds of you guys watching the videos. So hi everybody, welcome, and I hope you guys enjoy some of the newer stuff. I know a lot of the earlier stuff is a little bit more rougher in terms of script and lighting, but hey, stick with me. I promise I'm gonna get better. I promise. Please have faith in me. I'm gonna get better. Don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already. I would greatly appreciate that because it just shows that, hey, you guys appreciate what I'm putting out. And as always, everybody, stay spooky. Bye-bye.